Okay, this is John Tucker with CagedInsider.com, and I'm here with Swayze Valentine, the only cut girl. Now, my first question for you, Swayze, is do you prefer cut girl, cut woman, cut man?
I honestly don't have a preference. I've been kind of using cut woman because people have been calling me cut woman out of respect, but I'm not partial. It doesn't offend me if I'm called a cut man, so I honestly do not even have a preference.
Gotcha.
I'll answer to anything.
I'm going to go with cut girl just because I like the way that sounds the best, so it kind of rolls off the tongue. So now I want to get into, first of all, your name is Swayze Valentine. That is just a very unique name. It's something that a lot of people notice right away about you. How did you get that name?
You know, it was always has been a favorite of my mom's, and that doesn't have anything to do with Patrick, which is the question I get all the time. One of my new nicknames is Roadhouse, I guess, and I just recently saw that movie because they figured maybe that's how I was named after. But no, it isn't to make the record clear. But no, it was honestly as simple as it was a favorite of my mom's, so. Yeah, she's rolled with it.
It's interesting. It's the first name matches the last. Now, that brings me to my next question. When you were a kid, what was your childhood like? Did you have a real happy childhood? Were you around a bunch of people, or what was it like?
You know, I had a really great childhood. It's just my mom, my dad, my brother, and myself. A small family. We traveled a lot. My dad was not in the military, but my mom and dad were district managers with the Dunkin' Donuts Corporation. So we would travel to different states and open stores, find employees, run them, get them up and running, and then move to another state and do the same thing over again. And so we traveled a lot. I didn't have a lot of friends, not because, you know, I was unlikable, but I was really close to my family. You know, we moved so much, and I'm naturally a very shy person, so I just loved being around, you know, my family. I was totally happy and content with that. We moved all over. Then my parents got on with the Burger King Corporation and did the same thing. And it was a happy childhood. I enjoyed it, and I think my parents raised me quite well.
I mean, I could agree with that. Now, what is this is the question I like to ask everyone I interview. What is your dream car? If you could have any car, regardless of price or availability, what would you get?
That is like the easiest question because I am an Aston Martin fanatic. I love Aston Martins, and my two favorite makes is the Aston Martin DB9 and the 117. So
you like the 117?
One of those two, I think I would. Oh, hell yeah, the 117 is so nice. Oh, my God, I wish.
Have you ever sat in one?
I haven't. I've never even sat in an Aston Martin, period.
Oh, really? Oh, boy. Now,
Yeah.
the 117, it's weird when you sit in it. That's all I can say. The DB9, now that is just one of the best-looking cars ever made. This is my main job is actually, I'm an automotive advisor, so I advise people on what they need to do as far as tuning, modifications, repairs, stuff like that. And so, cars is just, it's in my blood. I carried a little Matchbox car in my pocket since as long as I can remember. So I always like to ask people that. For the record, mine's a Ferrari F40. So.
Oh, nice. That's a good choice.
To contrast that, now that's your dream car is an Aston Martin. What was your very first car?
Let's see, my very first car was a Pontiac Grand Am. I honestly don't even remember the year, but I want to say it was an early 2000 model, and I loved it. It handled nice. It was front-wheel drive, and I lived in Michigan at the time, and it was just such a sturdy little car. I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, I used to work for GM. I'm familiar with that one. So, yeah. Now,
nice.
What do you drive currently?
I currently do not drive anything. It's been a road, quite a journey for me.
Really?
I actually had both of my vehicles stolen, so I personally do not have anything right now. Yeah, but
recently?
I work on it. The first one, I had a truck, and it was stolen. I had a 2010 Dodge Ram pickup, and that was taking, let's see, so I had it for about a year and a half, so mid-2012, and then I got a Ford Mustang Cobra, and that was taken. I've been without a vehicle now for a little over a year, so November of 2012.
So they weren't able to recover either vehicle? They stole it and it's just gone?
Yep, it's gone. Both of them gone. So it's been a bummer. But so now my kids and I, we walk everywhere, or my parents have a vehicle, so if I need something, I can use theirs, or my kids and I take the bus. That's how we roll right now. And I like walking.
Yeah. Now I had a Integra GSR whenever I was growing up. And I was in love with the car, and they stole it from me. It was the same thing. But they've actually found mine down the road, parted off. They had stripped it all the way down and even taken the doors, the hood, the quarter panel. Yeah, it was a trip. I could see them stealing the Cobra, but the pickup truck, it makes me wonder. Someone just must have really needed a ride, I guess.
Yeah, I was in Seattle, and Seattle has some really sketchy parts, and I was parked outside at a meter and went to go do whatever I needed to do and came back and it was gone. And it's been gone ever since. Oh, my gosh. Killed me.
Well, just wait and pick your next car wisely. Maybe you can get that Aston Martin, huh?
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm waiting. I'm taking it slowly. I'm enjoying, the extra size. And, I'm not in desperate need right now, so I'm totally fine with it. So,
hey, it saves money. So now,
absolutely.
If you move on from your Grand Am, how recently was it, and what exactly inspired you to get into combat sports of all things?
Well, in 2006 was when I saw my first live show, and that was back up in Anchorage, Alaska, and I just loved the atmosphere and knew that I wanted to be a part of the industry, and so I talked to the promoter after I saw my live show, and I asked him that if I didn't want to fight, what other options would be available to me, and he told me that I could be a ring girl. So I went ahead and took the gig, but I only did it one time. And but when I was in the back waiting to go out cage side, I saw the coaches wrapping hands, and that was the part that I knew that I wanted to do in MMA, because it's such a to me, since I love the industry, wrapping the hands of a fighter is such a great honor for me. So
yes.
From that day forward, I just focused, and I've been going ever since.
It is a great responsibility. It interests me because it seems like your personality doesn't seem congruent with being in this industry. I mean, you have to be pretty thick-skinned, and that leads me to my next question. Have you ever had any problems from anyone? Maybe, for any reason at all.
Yeah, I actually have. A lot of people think that I had it pretty easy, and honestly, that's the total opposite. I had to fight for every position that I've held in this industry. Mind you, I've had a lot of supporters too, so don't get me wrong. But I had a lot of challenges at the beginning. Nobody knew who I was, so fighters, didn't want me to wrap their hands because I'm the only female they've seen doing it, so they didn't trust my abilities, which is understandable. I understand that. Coaches, they are with their fighter from day one. They don't really want to hand over the responsibility of taking care of their fighters to anybody, and that was a challenge. So I would, the fighters that would let me wrap their hands, sometimes the coaches would come behind me when I left the room and cut the hand wraps off, or the coaches wouldn't allow me to grease their fighter before I go into the cage. Sometimes when I've been in the cage, I've been cussed at countless times by the fighters' camp. One time I was actually physically assaulted, and that was the worst that it had got. And for me being such a shy person, I'm also a very strong individual, but I'm really, really thankful for all those challenges, because I've had to experience things I'd never experienced before, and I had to find a new way to deal with it other than taking it personally and, being an emotional female and, never coming back. And it really just made me want to do it that much more. And I really took it personally to better myself. So I was actually very thankful for all those challenges. So, I've definitely had a few bumps in the road.
That's the right outlook to have. I mean, you have a challenge and then you overcome it. Personally, I know how you feel. I was a ring girl one time and never again. I'm never going to do it again. So now,
oh man,
you can't. I imagine that there's no way you have a weak stomach. I mean, am I right?
I surprise myself sometimes because, I did grow up in the medical field, meaning my dad and my brother were EMTs, police officers, firefighters, all that kind of stuff. So I was always interested in the medical background. But I do have somewhat of a weak stomach, and but I'm surprised that I haven't, and too terrible inside the cage. There's only one time that I really got nauseous, and
you didn't barf.
There was this. No, I didn't. I never have, and I never have. And kind of when I'm in there, the adrenaline and my focus is something completely different than looking at the blood, if that makes sense. So I don't personally, get sick. But this one time, this fighter, which is one of the worst things I've seen, he got elbowed in the nose several times. And at the end of the round, of course, I went in. His blood is just pouring out of his nose. And I go up to him, and he also has blood pouring out of his mouth. He broke his septum. So, it was just a messy situation, and I almost couldn't even look at him. The doctor, of course, had to come in because it was an amateur fight, and they keep extra close eye on those guys. But I was pretty nauseous after that.
Yeah, and was it just the sight of all the blood, or was it like the actual viewing the injury itself, the nose that got you?
I think it was a combination of two things. One, blood can smell. You get this irony smell.
Yeah.
And then two, seeing that much blood come out of an area that there really shouldn't be that much blood coming out of was disturbing. Coming out of his mouth particularly, because it's pouring. It's literally like nonstop stream out of both his nostrils and just this gush pouring out of his mouth. It was a little disturbing.
Now, have you personally, I'm going to go ahead and guess no, but have you ever broken a bone before in your life?
I have not broken anything until about 4 months ago, and I broke my pinky toe, and it was one of the worst experiences I've ever felt. This stupid toe, and really, I was, those grocery carts, because I have two kids, and they have the little kid system, and it's a little car. I rolled that over my toe, and it just broke it. And I was, oh my God, it was terrible pain. How did you not use foul language in front of your children in that
Oh my God. That sounds like
totally I was like touching very quietly. Yeah.
Cover your ears, children. Give mommy 1 second.
Give me a second, kids. I gotta say some words here.
Now, I'm curious here. You've been around for a long time. Who contacted you and who appointed you to work the UFC 170 event that kind of got you launched off there?
Yeah, well, I've been working really closely with Adrian Rosenbush, who's also a fellow UFC cutman, and he's been my mentor. So he's really paved the way for me to get in contact with the right people and to build these great business relationships. But when push came to shove, it was time for me to get in. I got a call from one of the directors of the UFC to have me come out and work UFC 170, and that was January 7th at 11 a.m. Yes, I remember the time and date.
Did you do a crazy dance?
Oh my God, I was jumping up and down, and I was like squealing. It was kind of embarrassing, but it was just my family, so it was okay.
Yeah. Did you call everyone on your phone to tell them all about it then?
No, I really couldn't say a whole lot because it was kind of considered an audition, and they didn't, from a business point of view, you can imagine they wouldn't want me to blow everything up. If for some reason I did an epic fail, then it was kind of, I made all these people watch when I didn't do so well in scenarios. So luckily everything went perfect, but I had to keep it pretty quiet until the day of the fight.
Yeah, you don't want to wind up on YouTube, that's for sure. Okay, my next question was who trained you. Now, you just answered that. How did you get hooked up with him?
I met him in 2011
was it
at a Campbell Lighters. No, I didn't meet him through Stitch at all. I actually was working at an event that Adrian was working himself, and it was the Campbell Lighters for Tough Enough, and it was called Knockout Cancer. And he was one of the other cutmen, and at that point I was still just wrapping hands. So I met him, we worked together, he liked my work. Then shortly after that fight, he got on with the UFC, and I figured that he'd be the best person to talk to since I personally worked with him, to see if he would, take me under his wing per se and mentor me to, move forward with my career. And he was in Brazil at the time when I was contacting him, and first he didn't even want anything to do with it. He didn't want to mentor anybody. He just got into the UFC. He didn't want to take any time away from what he needed to do. And so we kind of went back and forth for a little while, and kind of convinced him that this could be a good idea, and it was. We started working together, and it was just perfect. And we trained all the time. I flew out to Las Vegas. Oh my gosh, I ended up being in Vegas about 2 weeks out of every month, if not a little longer, for a good 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And and it all paid off, and we still stay in contact and everything. He was a great teacher.
Huh. Now, this brings me to my next question. If you've got, when I started in the automotive industry, I didn't know anything about anything, and so I had to have a mentor-apprentice relationship with a man who taught me how to fix cars. I mean, he taught me how to diagnose them and take everything apart, put it back together. That's just something I'm most familiar with. I'm not going to ask you your age, but once you get a little more established, for the same reasons as Adrian, would you ever consider taking on an apprentice of your own?
I think that's a great question. I absolutely would consider it. I definitely want to, some other future goals is to have like a Cutman, school per se, and train people and work together with other Cutmen to really, share the knowledge of what a Cutman's responsibilities are in keeping the fighters safe. And I think it would benefit more than just people who aspire to be a Cutman, and it would even help the fighters themselves as well as coaches to understand our role and to take a few courses. And, and I just think that's really something I'd like to work on. But, yeah, I mean, definitely a protege or apprentice of my own is definitely not out of the question.
All right, then it's settled. I'll do it. Now you're working UFC 171 next. That's a pretty quick turnaround. Were you excited that you didn't mess anything up and they brought you right back? I mean, did you feel real confident after that? You thought, man, I nailed it.
Gosh, the experience at 170 was just incredible. I had a lot of support there, and it was so nice. And, yeah, the turnaround was very quick, and I'm so thankful. And, I don't have a schedule a year out or anything yet, but I think from what they've told me, they're definitely pleased with my performance and how well I did with the fighters, and their promotion. And, yeah, they definitely asked me back, and I'm super excited.
Mm-hmm. And now, when it wasn't long ago where I remember Dana White saying we will never have females fight in the UFC. That's not something I'm interested in making money off of. Do you think that them appointing you to a UFC 170 had anything to do with the fact that it was a female fight as the main event?
I really don't know. They are very smart people, and they run their business very well, and I'm not about to try to dissect and see how they do things. I'm just thankful that I was able to be a part of it, and, I really have no idea. I know some of the camps, they asked me if I was there just to rap and take care of the female fighters, which I thought was kind of funny. And I told them, no, I'm there to take care of everybody, and they were pretty thrilled about that. But, no, I don't know. I don't think maybe that was at all their motive. I think maybe it was coincidental, because that was a pretty big show to put a newbie on, a pay-per-view. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll never know, but it's fun to speculate. When you go out there and you're working these jobs, you get there, early, and you're getting all set up, and do you get excited, or do you get nervous, or are you focused? How do you feel?
I am nervous all the way up to the point where I step foot into that arena, and it's so funny because it doesn't matter where I'm at, what city, state, country, anything that I'm at. I'm not comfortable until I step foot inside that arena, and then it feels like home. And that's the honest truth. Once I step into that arena, the nerves go away, and it's excitement, and let's just pure business. Let's just get it done, and it's just the most awesome job ever.
Huh. Now, this is an interesting question for me. Of course, you're a fan of mixed martial arts. Do you look forward to seeing the fights in person? I mean, you have time where you might not be working on one particular fight, or you might have time to watch on a monitor, or even in person. Do you look forward to that at all? Do you enjoy just being there and being part of such a cool, a fight card, and getting to see these epic fights happen right before you?
I mean, absolutely. When I can get a second to actually catch a fight on the monitor, absolutely, I'll stand there, and if I don't have any other responsibilities, of course, and I'll watch it. And you have to love the industry to be able to do anything in it. And when I'm cage side, I'm not watching the fight at all. I'm just strictly keeping my eye on my fighter. And it's funny because I record the fights and then I go watch them once I get home.
Yeah, because you didn't even get it. You didn't even see it at all. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's just being focused on what you're there to do. It makes sense. I'm interested in this because at UFC 171, we're going to have a new welterweight champion. We're seeing Robbie Lawler fight Johnny Hendricks, which I just think is just genius matchmaking. I love that match to death. I'm going to ask you your pick, Swayze. Who's going to win that fight and how? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh, man. You're going to put me on the spot, and you're not going to get the answer you're looking for because, I just honestly, I like to stay completely neutral because I have such mad respect for each of these fighters, and they have abilities that I could never imagine. So I can't sit here and say one person still will override the other. I just think that they're both great, and I can't wait to watch both of them fight personally.
That's going to be an epic night. It's actually happened just down the road from where I am in Texas, and we actually coincidentally are both working that event. So I'll go ahead and conclude the interview. I'll see you there in Dallas for UFC 171. Anyone who's interested can follow Swayze Valentine at Swayze Cut Girl on Twitter. I really hope you get some more work coming up. I hope they keep you real busy. Thanks for taking the time to talk with me, Swayze.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right. This is John Tucker with CagedInsider.com, and we are signing off.